How do we look back at Adam Peters' time in charge of the Commanders? Does Joe Whitt Jr. deserve to be fired? These are just a couple of questions that we will jump into today on this edition of Commanders Hot Takes. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Command Show. My name is Grant Mitchell, and we are here to discuss hot takes. Specifically, we are here to rank them from cold to what is scorching hot. The cold takes stand for we're pouring cold water on them. We don't believe in them. The hot takes, those are the ones that right now might seem controversial, but give it some time and they should become the prevailing logic and prevailing wisdom. Guys, we're about to jump into it, but before we do, make sure you do hit a like on this video. Hit the subscribe button as well if you are new around here. Can't say enough about the support you guys have shown the channel recently. And I don't want to keep you bogged down too much longer. So one final reminder here, this is your platform. Make sure you leave your thoughts on all of the takes as we get into them. And let's not waste any more time. Let's start with number one.
The Bill Croskey-Merritt phenomenon is over.
Cold take. I get it. We really wanted to run the ball against the Bears. We really wanted to run the ball against the Cowboys. It didn't happen. For the Bears, their defense was horrible, but they did have guys coming back from injuries. They did have a bye week just beforehand. With the Cowboys, they ran man on nearly 50% of plays. They knew the receivers couldn't separate in man coverage, made it a lot easier for them to get downhill and attack the run, prioritize stopping that, and dare the practice squad receivers to eat them on the back end. So yes, Bill's numbers haven't looked great for the last couple of weeks. The last two games, a total of 94 rushing yards, 3.1 yards per carry. That's after he had entered the Bears game, averaging the league high 6.6 yards per carry. He had that 111-yard game on 14 carries against the Chargers. I get it. We wanted to see more from him. The simple reality is the Commanders' offense has just been very predictable the last couple of weeks. And unfortunately, until Terry McLaurin, until Noah Brown, until Deebo Samuel, these guys are back out on the field, until you have receivers who can legitimately beat man coverage, you're going to get more of this. But this shouldn't be a reflection of what Bill can be. Just take a look at what's happening to Ashton Jeanty down there in Vegas. The Raiders' offensive line is so putrid that they are making a truly generational talent, a guy who ran for 2,700 yards his final year of college. They are making him look like a backup who's going to be out of the league pretty soon, just to keep it in perspective here. The Commanders are totally predictable, and not a lot of that's going to change again until this injury situation gets solved. Kliff Kingsbury, while I have applauded him for a lot of his play design, as far as his actual script, that's where some of the issues arise. I was talking to one of my friends named Brett. He pointed something out very intelligent, that when Kliff is on his script, everything looks great with the offense. When he's forced to deviate from it, a lot of the times you're sitting there scratching your head thinking, what happened? Think about some of these games where the running has just totally disappeared and you're not running on 1st and 10 anymore. You're not running on 3rd and 1 either. Those moments, not only do they reflect poorly on Kliff, but they do take away opportunities from Bill. They mean that he's going longer without the ball, so he's in less of a rhythm. And all those things together, combined with Jayden also not being the biggest running threat in the world right now because of some of the knee problem, now the hamstring, all those things come together to make a perfect storm for Bill to have slow days at the office. So yes, his numbers haven't been great the last couple of weeks. They might not be great for another couple of weeks, but Bill is still looking like a long-term franchise running back, so don't turn your back on him right now.
Adam Peters failed us.
I need this message to get out there. Stop trying to make the Laramie Tunsil deal sound like a negative. Yes, we want picks. And right now, we're losing. So we've all got our eyes set to the future. And when I say future, I don't mean Monday night against the Chiefs. I mean next year. I mean the draft. And we're all thinking, man, we had to give up 3 picks, technically 4. We gave up a 4th. We got a 4th back from Houston. Really, we gave up 3 picks to get Tunsil. Oh, we would love to have that 2nd-round pick. Oh, we would love to have that 3rd-round pick. You're absolutely right. That is totally true. But if we didn't have Laramie Tunsil and we did have those picks, we would be saying, oh, we need to nail this left tackle draft position in the draft. We got to do that. When you look back on the 2nd and 3rd round picks from this regime, you got Trey Amos, you got Mike Sanderstill, Ben Sinnott, Johnny Newton, Luke McCaffrey, if you had possession of your second or your third round pick right now, or you could have Laremy Tunsil, which one would you choose? We need picks. Again, I'm not trying to take away from that, but we have arguably the best pass blocking left tackle in the entire NFL in his prime for at least another 3, maybe 4 years or so. If you're worried about Jayden being injury prone, if you're one of those people, considering the amount of hits that he's taken, then you want the best possible protection for him that you can get, and that comes in the form of Laremy Tunsil. Now, the Deebo Samuel trade is interesting. If the team was winning games right now, we would be saying that was a massive success. Even though Deebo missed that game last weekend, he still leads the Commanders in receiving yards. He's tied for the team lead in total touchdowns. If he had played last week, he would be leading the team in total yards. Bill just overtook him by about 20 yards or so. But for the cost of a 5th-round pick, and considering you also gave up B-Rob and got a 6th-round pick back from them, so really it was almost a 5th for a 6th, a Deebo for B-Rob. We wouldn't have been using B-Rob this season. Deebo has provided a real spark to this team when he's been on the field, and it looks like his injury, he'll be back on Monday. That's my assumption. If we were 5-2 right now, 6-1, we'd be saying, man, 10 out of 10 on the Deebo trade. It really worked out. Now, the one that obviously is an abject failure is Marshawn Lattimore, but this is also where I'll defend Adam Peters, and I'll say, guys, when we were at that spot in the season, with the team playing as well as it was, with the runway clearly open, you knew your secondary wasn't going to survive. You weren't going to win playoff games with Benjamin St-Juste and Michael Davis and Emmanuel Forbes. You had to try something. And Marshawn Lattimore was a big name who turned in a lot of good performances over his career. You had to try. You simply had to. It has not worked out. Not here to defend that. Would I like those picks back now? Absolutely. But at the time, it made perfect sense to do exactly what Adam Peters did. And now I just want to talk about the general composition of the roster right now. A lot of people out there are saying, oh man, when Dorrance Armstrong gets injured, when Deebo and Terry get injured, the lack of depth really shows. That's not Adam Peters' fault. The Ron Rivera, with every passing year, the Ron Rivera excuse wears out a little bit. But right now, we're only 2 drafts into the new era. There's years and years stockpiled where Rivera could have filled the cupboard. He could have got you legitimate starters. He could have got you legitimate depth pieces. But because he didn't, that's why Adam Peters has to go out and do something like sign all these veterans to 1-year deals, just because he needs cheaper, short-term solutions while still having the flexibility to build for the future. So think about where the Commanders' depth chart is right now, and then I'm going to read you what it was heading into week 1 in 2023, the year before he took over, obviously. Your starting depth chart was Sam Howell, Brian Robinson Jr., Terry McLaurin, De'Ami Brown, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, Byron Pringle, Dax Milne, Logan Thomas, John Bates, Cole Turner. Your line was Charles Leno, Sadiq Charles, Nick Gates, Andrew Wiley, and Sam Cosmi. On defense, it was Montez Sweat, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Chase Young. Your linebackers were Jamin Davis and Cody Barton. You had Kalike Hudson and David Mayo in there as well. Kendall Fuller, Benjamin St-Juste, Emmanuel Forbes, Rashad Wildgoose. You had Cam Curl, Jeremy Reeves, Derek Forrest, and Percy Butler. And then special teams were Tressway, Joey Sly, and Cameron Cheeseman. Who can forget Rivera drafting Cameron Cheeseman in the 4th or the 5th round whenever he did that? And then you had Antonio Gibson as your kick returner. Dax Milne as the punt returner. The roster is in a much better spot right now. And although the team is not ready to go 15-2 or anything like that, not ready to win the Super Bowl right now, the Commanders have arguably the best cap situation of any team in the NFL. When you look at how the contracts are structured, when you look at their cap space over the next few years, also when you look at the available free agents, or rather the free agents that will be gone from the team. If these players don't work out, they're not going to be brought back. So we have a long way to go. And I get it. We're impatient, myself included. I'm impatient. I've got a short tolerance. I don't want to stick around and wait for things. But Adam Peters has done a great job making us competitive for the short term, giving us flexibility for the long term, nailing a couple of drafts. Do I wish some other picks would be panning out right now? Of course. But they are still young players. It's too early to give up on a lot of them. So Adam Peters has failed us? Not at all.
We need an offensive-minded head coach.
So I've left this as a bit of a lukewarm take because I kind of got the angel and the devil on my shoulder talking to me at the same time. So the angel is saying, look around the league. plenty of teams are really good and they have defensive coaches. The Patriots are really good. Now their schedule is insanely soft, but kind of to this point here, Vrabel's a defensive guy, yet Drake May, second-year quarterback, is playing some of the best football in the league right now. So proof you can get your offense to play well with the defensive coach. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, same thing. Todd Bowles is a defensive guy. Baker's an MVP candidate right now. Maybe not after Monday night, but he was. The Seahawks, same exact story with Mike McDaniel and Sam Darnold. Sean McDermott, the Bills, Josh Allen, even the Chargers. Now, injuries have kind of killed them. They are still 4-3. They still have a winning record. They're just on their 7th string tackle. But Jim Harbaugh got that team 11-6 last year. I thought they were going to win the AFC West this season. Injuries have played a part in that. But point being, there are a lot of good teams out there with defensive coaches. Now, the counterpoint to this, despite me naming some of those quarterbacks right there that stood out with the defensive coaches, a lot of the best quarterbacks do have offensive coaches. The credence that I would give to this train of thought is imagining the full potential that could be unlocked with Jayden Daniels, with a true genius offensive coach, with a Kevin O'Connell, with a Sean McVay, someone of that ilk. And I think Kliff Kingsbury's done a good job this year. I've been very consistent in that. Last year did a very good job. This year he's done a good job. A lot of very innovative play designs, but I do still think there are some holes. I think there are some gaps missing that with an elite mind could take this team over the top by getting Jayden Daniels to truly ascend to that MVP tier. When you look around the league and you see how some of these other quarterbacks have improved noticeably when they got that elite offensive mind, that's where I'm just wondering. That's where the devil on my shoulder is talking to me like, hey, Dan Quinn, culture guy, theoretically should make the defense good, hasn't panned out. All that sounds great, but then look at what happened to Caleb Williams when he got Ben Johnson. And Caleb's not great, don't get me wrong. But the Bears offense as a whole, their numbers have improved so significantly. And I can trace that directly to Ben Johnson. How about Shane Steichen with the Colts and what he's doing with Daniel Jones? How about Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers? The job he's doing with Mac Jones now. Even Brock Purdy. I'm one of those guys. I'm not in the Purdy hive. I don't think Purdy's that good. And heck, Jones is kind of outplaying what Purdy did for that team right now. So that almost proves the point that I'm making, but it also proves the point of just how good of an OC, not an OC, an offensive mind that Kyle Shanahan is. So that's the devil on my shoulder talking to me, saying, look, your defense might not be able to reach the same full potential, but right now we have a defensive coach. The defense is awful anyway, and Jayden is really, really good, elite even. Well, what if he's an MVP? What if he's a multi-time MVP? So I'm not going to say that we need an offensive-minded head coach. If DQ ends up getting fired at some point over the next few years, would I like to see us maybe pivot and change directions? Or would I at least like us to see us be aggressive with the offensive coordinator hire? Yes, absolutely.
Scheme is not an issue.
All right, here we go. This is going to be the most controversial take for sure. I'm positive of it, but it is something that I believe in. And I want to start by saying this. This is not me defending Joe Whitt Jr.'s job status. This is not me saying that criticism of him is unfair. Heck, this is not me saying his play calling is perfect. There are obvious situations where he could get better defense on the field. I watch the All-22 from every game, usually every play, sometimes multiple times. I give each play multiple looks. I listen to breakdowns. Logan Paulson does a phenomenal job, whether it's on his podcast with Grant Paulson, whether it's on the Commander's YouTube page, whether it's some of his Twitter stuff. There are other Twitter and YouTube film guys who will break plays down. I watch all of it because I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to become more intelligent, try to be able to give you guys better knowledge, but that starts with me. So I'm watching these plays, and I'll be honest with you guys. A lot of the time, the defense is in the right call for what the play or what the situation dictates. Now, there are limitations to what can be called, but that's heavily influenced by the personnel on the roster. So you've got to try to work around these different roadblocks while also trying to get your defense in the best situation possible, which sometimes isn't even a possibility. You know, you could have the best possible play drawn up, but if you know your team's not in position to execute it, then it's not going to work. What's the point in calling it? There's a very common theme when I do watch these plays back. Players get caught in traffic. Bobby Wagner doesn't do a good job of carrying vertical routes over the middle of the field. Communication isn't there, whether it's the outside corner to Mikey in the slot, whether it's the corners to the linebackers to the safeties. Communication is totally off. But for me, it's those principles. And this should actually resonate with the coaching staff because they're a very principle-driven staff. They talk about identity and things like that. Well, it's not that when the team gets into cover 3, they forget how to play football. It's not that they can't. It's not that quarters is too complex for them. It's that they don't communicate. They don't tackle. They aren't aggressive pursuing the ball, trying to get it out of the air. There's moments of lapses in concentration. All those things together leads to players overcompensating, trying to think they have to do more than they actually do, and they forget to do their responsibility. None of that is related to the scheme. And again, let me make myself very clear here because I don't want anybody to lose this part. Not saying the scheme is perfect. Not saying the play calling is perfect. It's clearly not. But my position on this matter has always been, from what I can tell, I'm not in the locker room, I'm not in the practice field, from what I can tell, watching the team on TV, watching back the All-22, this seems very clearly like issues on the practice field. Now, that is still Joe Whitt Jr.'s responsibility. So you'll notice the phrasing of the take is scheme is not an issue. The phrasing is not Joe Whitt does or does not deserve to be fired. That's for you to make an opinion on. I'm not going to put something like that out there on my platform. I try not to advocate for coaches getting fired. But Joe Whitt Jr. does wear responsibility for the shortcomings of the defense. My opinion on the matter is that whether it's his teaching in the classroom, on the field, communicating the responsibilities of the players, that's where Joe Whitt Jr.'s issues are arising. That's where they're stemming from. I don't think he's doing a good job of making it clear to players what they are expected to do in this call, against this situation, in this context, against this opponent, against this player. I think that's where all of the problems are arising. Also, I've heard a popular topic of conversation be Joe Whitt Jr. should move down from the box. He clearly needs to get more hands-on with the players, and that could work. I genuinely have no idea. I would just raise this also as a counter, and this is something that really we'll never really be able to figure out, but the importance of position coaches isn't talked about enough in football. They're the ones who are actually working with these players every single day. I say the head coach is kind of like the CEO of a company. It's dialed down a little bit, but Kliff Kingsbury is the CEO of the offense. Joe Whitt Jr. is the CEO of the defense. And then you've got managers, which are your linebacker coach, your defensive back coach, your defensive line coach. Those are the guys who are working with the players on their skills, communicating responsibilities. They're the ones communicating with them during the game, watching back clips on the Surface tablets, saying, hey, this is where you went wrong. This is what we got to do on this next play. When we're in this call, this is what we're looking for, et cetera, et cetera. So does Joe Whitt Jr. moving from the box to the sideline improve that line of communication with the players? It very well could, okay? All I would say is let's also be open to the possibility that maybe communication is breaking down between the position coaches and the players, or maybe it's Joe Whitt Jr. to the position coaches. Maybe they're not all on the same page. All I'm saying with this matter is let's not just look at Marshawn Lattimore running into Quan Martin and saying that was a scheme issue when clearly Quan's leverage was a little off and Bobby didn't carry the vertical route up the middle of the field. It's just things like that. Let's not use scheme as a catch-all term. Let's try to be a little more nuanced. And that way, when we do have conversations as serious about should Joe Whitt Jr. be fired or not, we can really dive into the nuance of what's going on.
Look in the mirror.
Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. You might have heard that condensed to pride goes before the fall. It's time to let the defense fail in a different manner, is how I would phrase this. Time for change. The change could work. It could fall flat on its face. Could be a total, complete failure. But this defense, as presently constructed, with these players and these personnel groupings and these plays, is already a failure. So, Einstein said the definition of insanity was doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I know what the result is going to be with these players, with these plays, with these personnel groupings. And if we want to relate this back to Joe Whitt Jr., the personnel grouping piece is not scheme related, but is a reflection of how he should be. It's a tool that can be used to evaluate Joe Whitt Jr.'s job and the level that he's performing at. So I'm not bringing this up to say that there need to be outright changes. This guy needs to be benched. This guy needs to be benched. What I am saying is we need to get different looks. We need to at least try to get different opportunities for other players, specifically speed in the middle of the field. This is something that we've been talking about for the majority of the season, and I get the importance Bobby Wagner brings to the team. He's clearly the leader of the defense. He is the green dot, one of the best linebackers ever, future Hall of Famer. He's a player, but he's also a coach on the field. I'm not here saying Bobby Wagner deserves to be benched. I am here saying Bobby Wagner deserves to be put in different positions with other players around him. Heck, maybe even takes a player or two off on the sideline so that you can try out some different looks. If you're just going to stick with this same script, it's not going to work. We've seen it this season. We saw it last season. We know what the outcome is going to be. If Kane Medrano, if Jordan McGee get on the field, they could still fail, but they could succeed. I don't know because I haven't seen it. The calls on this defense really shouldn't be a big deal. They're somewhat limited in what they can do, but I always say this, coordinators in the NFL are geniuses. Now, the worst coordinator doesn't look like a genius compared to the best. You know, you're compared against your peers. But what I do know about this team is that if they're going to continue to play this zone-heavy style like they have pivoted to recently, you have to be able to cover blades of grass. That's on top of communication and just understanding of the field around you. Being able to get out and cover a different range is a massive part of playing zone coverage. Tom Brady, you want to say Tom Brady doesn't know how to read a defense. How many times did Tom Brady say on the call in that Cowboys game on Sunday afternoon that there was just so much space in the middle of the field, that there wasn't much speed out there to get around? Bobby has tremendous coverage instincts. He just doesn't have the legs anymore. Frankie Louvu doesn't have great legs to begin with, and he doesn't have the same instincts as Wagner. So we need, in my opinion, we need to just try again. Different players, different groupings, just get them on the field and see what they have. Especially as the season continues to go on. If we're to lose, let's assume we lose 2 of the next 3, maybe even all 3. Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Then you got the Seahawks on a short week, and I think the Seahawks are coming off of a bye. So 14 days of rest versus 6. And then it's the Lions. I just don't anticipate it going very well. And at that point, if we are 4-6, if we are 3-7, we'll be in a position where we're not competing to get to the playoffs this season. We're not competing for the division title this season. We are competing to see who can be the best team in football in the next 2 to 3 years. And that's when these experiments could potentially lead to you shining light on what could be a defining part of your defense moving forward. And all the respect in the world to Bobby Wagner for the things that he's done in his career, but I know that he is not what this defense is focused on in the next 2 to 3 years. So to kind of sum this up, I don't know if it is pride. I don't know if it's just commitment to leadership and a hierarchy. I don't know if the coaches are stubborn and they believe they can make this job work, but with every passing week, we get more and more evidence that it's not going to. So set the pride aside, whether we're going 4-3, whether we're going 3-4, whether you are benching players, whether you are just rotating new guys in, whether you are making Ale Cajo and Kane Medrano active for the first time this year. They got some special teams work before, but it's first time on defense. Whether you're getting Jordan McGee significant reps, we have to try something. The ship is sinking, and all we're doing is sitting on it, waiting for it to go down. And yeah, that's the end of the video today, guys. Appreciate you all joining me. Very, very interested to know your thoughts about some of these hot takes. So make sure you do go to the comment section below. Leave me everything you got, whether you got one take, whether there's one that I didn't mention that you want to put out there, whether you want to respond to all of them, please feel free. I really, really enjoy reading and responding to your comments. I'm going to head on out of here, guys. Appreciate you all joining me. I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.